Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Maria. Dane McDonald is actually not going to be joining us today, but that doesn't mean we can't keep the show going. I'm really excited to talk with you. And today's episode, we actually have it titled From Olympia Champion to Champion Mother, and we're going to be talking about all things balancing family and fitness and learning more about your career and journey in the fitness industry since you have been in it for a while. So let's just kick off the podcast episode. Can you give us a little bit information about your background in the industry and what it's looked like for you to this day?
First, thank you so much for the invite. I nearly fell off my chair when I got the invite. I'm like,
Awesome.
I was super excited. So thank you. Well, my name is Nathalia Melo. I've been in the fitness industry for a long time. I was one of the first ever IFBB Bikini Pros. So I turned pro in 2009 or something like that. Competed in the first ever Olympia. So I was around in the competitive arena for a long time. I won the Olympia in 2012, have been featured in magazines all over the world, have done seminars in over 30 different countries, including Australia. And now I have pivoted, and since having my kids 5 years ago, over 5 years ago, that's how old my eldest son is. I have pivoted to work with moms who are planning on getting pregnant, who are pregnant, or who just had, or who have children, regardless of what age they are. I felt that it was a community that needed help, that needed some guidance. And before we even get into it, I just kind of want to give a little bit of background on that, because one thing that I noticed in the mom space when it came to fitness is that there was a lot of body positivity message, but in a way that it was almost negating the way that a mother felt about her body. It was almost like, oh no, everything is fine. Well, it's not fine because I feel like crap.
Yeah.
So I noticed
a sense of positivity going on.
Yes, for me, it was a very toxic positivity. And I just wanted to come and be like, hey, listen, things are not looking great. I get it. I've won the Olympia. I've had the best body in the world, and I know exactly how you feel. But we can move forward. We can change in a way that is going to be aligned with this new stage of life.
Yeah. And love
that's
that.
where I am now.
Yeah, I love that. And a lot of times, I myself am a PT. I work in person and online, and I do have some busy mamas on the team. And, kudos, because you guys are giving birth to the future. And lots of times, I think it's very hard for PTs and just the industry in general. Unless you have children yourself, it's very hard to be at level of understanding, not only what comes with postpartum, but also knowing what it's like to be a mom and juggling that huge full-time job and responsibility, but not neglecting, prioritizing your health and wellness and, caring for yourself. And we're going to get into that deeper, but I just love being able to have a woman like you on our podcast, very influential in the industry, and really will set the standard for, a lot of our listeners are PTs and people in the industry, and, allowing us to be better coaches for other moms that are out there. Now, talking a little bit more about you started training at the age of 14, saving your allowance for a gym membership. Tell us a little bit about how you fell in love with fitness.
Oh, that's funny. I'm petty. I'm going to start with that. I'm petty, and you're going to understand what I'm saying. So whenever I was about 14, I told my mom that I wanted to join a gym because I really liked that strong physique. And I came from a household, I'm originally from Brazil. And in Brazil, it's very patriarchal. It's very what your parents say is the rule. Yeah. You don't really have a say. So for me, having control of my body was something that would give me control of something when nothing else in my life and in my household. And I'm not saying that it's good or bad the way lives are ran there, but that's just how it is. So for me, it was about having control over my body. Yeah. So I asked my mom to pay for my gym membership. My mom is not very much into the gym. She's your typical yo-yo dieter. Every single fat diet you can possibly think of, she's done it. And then I told her I wanted to join the gym, and she said that it was going to be a waste of money. So at the time, I was 14, and I'm like, hold my beer. So I start saving, hold my beer. I start saving my allowance for, and at the time, I'm going back many years ago. I'm 37 now, so it's 23 years ago. At the time, there was no the whole direct debit or anything. It was like a
Yep.
paper card that you'd go to the front desk and pay cash or with a check.
Yeah.
So I would save my allowance for 2 months in order to be able to pay for 1 month of gym membership. So I was actually just going to the gym every other month because that's what I could afford.
Yeah. And that's true level of dedication, and also like that love for fitness, and you can see that passion starting from such a young age, and kind of growing into like your next step of your life. You also studied law and before you fell in love with fitness, and tell us a little bit about how you made that shift to commit to a career in the fitness industry. It's evident that you had that passion from a very young age, but what made you make that decision with that maybe studying law and working in law wasn't it for you, and you wanted to grow yourself in the career of the fitness industry?
Oh, that's such a great question. So again, going back to the whole what your parents expect of you and what career choice you're going to make. So whenever it came time for me to make a career choice as far as education goes, in Brazil, in order for you to be a personal trainer, you need to go to university. You need to have a bachelor's degree.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, so I was really debating going to it's physical education, like the proper
Yeah.
translation would be something kind of along the lines. And that's what I wanted to do. But my mom said that she wouldn't pay for my university
Yeah.
if I went to that because there was no quote unquote future on that.
Yeah.
So the second best thing for me was going to law school because I had lawyers in my family on my father's side. So I went to law school, and coming from a country like Brazil, that there is a lot of corruption, there is a lot of
Yeah.
lack of justice, injustice. It became increasingly frustrating as I was studying law to see that I wasn't going to be able to make a difference.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to be able to make an impact. So that's kind of, I was halfway through. I got into law school at age 17 because law school in Brazil is a bachelor's degree. So
Gotcha. Okay.
I got in law school at age 17. So kind of like halfway through when I was about 20, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
This ain't for me. So I packed my stuff, sold my car, moved to the US with $350.
That is a commitment, and that is a risk. And like at the end of the day, maybe in that moment you were maybe hesitant, or you believed in yourself enough to pursue that, and look at where you are today. And I think,
Yeah.
that's really important for all of our listeners. It's, finding that, if you're passionate about something, as scary as it may seem, and although it may seem like all of the odds are against you, you'd never know if that leap is going to take you where you want to be unless you take it, right? So what
Yeah.
would you say, like, to your younger self today, or even to some of our listeners, if they're like unsure if they should pursue a career with a passion such as fitness? I know times
Um,
today are a little bit more different than when you were trying to pursue the career, but what would be your advice?
I think that the first thing is, and like whenever I describe it in a podcast or something like this, it sounds very linear. The journey
Mhm.
sounds very linear, but it wasn't linear.
Yeah.
Like I quit law school, I moved to the US, I started bartending. I was getting drunk every night, and then I was like, something needs to change. And
Yeah.
then I fell back into what like fitness was for me. And then that's when I heard about competitions. I started doing competitions. So it kind of like one thing led to the next.
Yeah.
But one thing that I noticed is that I was always going back to fitness, and was the one thing that gave me a purpose. So
Yes.
it
Great.
was almost like that light bulb moment that I had, and I'm like, hold on a second, there is something in here.
Yeah.
So I think that understanding two things: whenever you're a trainer, whenever you're a coach, you're not in the business of working out. You're in the
Yeah.
business of helping people.
Of course. Yeah.
Like, and I think that a lot of people that go into training, they go with the mentality of like, oh, I like to work out, so
I'll be a
like
coach.
I'm gonna be great for that.
Yeah.
Your business is not to work out. Nobody gives a crap if you're working out or not.
Yeah.
Obviously, having a nice physique is a very good selling point of what you have to offer,
Yeah.
but it isn't at all, because if you cannot deliver, and if you're not willing to keep on educating yourself and taking continuous education and trying to become better every single day, especially at the speed that things change
Yeah.
and evolve, you are going to be left behind. So I think that you need to have passion not for working out, but for helping people.
Yeah. And, I think also with like coaching and PTs, furthering your education is great, but also learning that, the clients that you're working with, they're human beings, right? These are people who are depending on you, not just to give them the knowledge, the numbers, the workouts, but you are someone that is their backbone. You're coaching them, you're guiding them. It's behaviors, emotions, speed. It's more than just, hey, here's a great workout. For some people, that's fine. But for a lot of the clients, and I've seen that a lot with myself, I am a younger PT. I'm only 22, but I've been a coach since I was 18, and I see that growth within myself through the experience I've gotten with my clients, is knowing how to be a personable coach and understanding that you may not understand. Like I said, I work with a bunch of moms. I may not understand what they're going through, but I know how to have empathy and put myself in their shoes, in the sense of, what can I do to help you make your life easier while still giving you the knowledge you need to reach your goals. And I think that's one thing that sometimes we neglect. We see in the industry is neglected as coaches. You just think, keep learning. But if you take away that personable factor, it's that gap that you can't connect with the people you're working with.
Absolutely.
But of course, within yourself, you are passionate. And I think one of the coolest things, and given the Olympia was last weekend, I know this episode will be live this weekend, you were an Olympian. And it's such an honor to be able to talk with you. I've been following the Olympian competition since I was, a young girl in the gym, and being able to speak with you and learn everything there is to know from you is amazing. And I think you were named the first ever Brazilian to win Bikini Olympia title in 2012, which is amazing. I think that's so awesome, especially representing your country. Tell us a little bit about your journey and what prep looked like to become a world champion. You experienced some of the most rigorous preparations for one of the biggest titles and shows for the fitness industry.
The journey wasn't linear.
Yeah.
My journey was very different than I think many people. I wouldn't say that I had the best coaching in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think that is kind of why I decided to become a coach myself, because I was able, by having pretty terrible coaching and pretty good coaching,
Yeah.
I have been able to spot what I like and what I do not like, and what I want to serve and what I do not want to serve. I feel like winning the Olympia has opened a lot of doors. And as a competitor, one thing that if I could give an advice to anybody, but as they say, if advice were good, you wouldn't give you itself.
Yeah.
But take it or leave it. I feel like a lot of people get very emotionally attached to the identity of being a competitor.
Yeah.
And they have a very hard time knowing when to leave, and understanding that competing is not competing is it's a platform that you need to use to grow your name, to establish yourself, to be well known. And then it comes a time that I believe it is time to exit.
Yeah.
And I feel like, from being in the industry for so long and watching people, I feel like a lot of people focus so much on the competing aspect of life that they forget that there is more to life. And that's one thing that I have been very grateful for with my husband, who was also a professional athlete. My husband was a professional rugby player for 15 years.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So watching my husband play at professional level, he played for Ireland. That's where he's from. And seeing how he had a very realistic work-life balance.
Yeah.
Made me question my choices in my life, and how rigorous the life of a competitor is, because it isn't just about like the time that you are in the gym. It is a full-time job. Like with my husband, what I noticed is that, like, he would go to training, he would train, be in the stadium for like 6-7 hours, and then he would come home and he was shut off. Like, he could carry on life as normal, but as a competitor, I couldn't do that. And I noticed that it was consuming my life, but there was more to life that I wanted to live. So I never, it's not that I never, but I was able to catch on very quickly that I didn't want the whole of my identity to be a competitor. I wanted to have more things to me than just being a competitor. And that's kind of how I feel now being a mom. I don't want to be just a mom. I am a mom who's also a business owner, who's also a coach, who's also a wife, who's also a friend.
Yeah, and you you play the role in your life, in all of these roles very well. And I think, this kind of goes into the, like, the truth. There are so many unspoken truths about competing. And I myself, I'm a WBFF competitor. And I'm currently in a prep, and I can, vouch for it is a full-time job. It is something that is not just that 1 hour, 2 hours in the gym. It is the 24 hours in your day and how you use that to your advantage. So for that one day that you step that stage, or whatever show, how many shows you do that year. And I think, as a seasoned pro, what would be like 3 things you would want, someone like me, a young competitor, to know, on top of, not allowing yourself to just develop the identity of, hi, my name is this and I'm a competitor. What else can you add to your life? What other tips do you think young competitors can benefit from knowing?
Number one is, don't let competing fully consume your identity. Obviously, whenever you're competing at a high level, there are going to be seasons of life that you need to be quote unquote obsessed. I didn't win the Olympia by not being obsessed. I didn't win the Olympia by half-assing my preps and my food and all that kind of stuff. So I think that it is important to note that, but also understanding that there is more to life than just competing. I think that I always try to space out my shows, so I wasn't in prep year round. A lot of the girls who I competed with were doing 5, 6, 7, 8 shows a year. I'm like, nope, no, thank you. No, I did 2, max 3. That's all.
I do about 1 to 2 max myself as well, because it's too much.
Yeah, so that would be my first advice. Second advice, perhaps unpopular opinion amongst the men, but I'm gonna say it. Do not. Can I curse?
Oh my gosh, yes. An unfiltered podcast.
Okay, good. Do not hoe yourself on the gram. For attention. Like, if you plan on building a business, I know that there have been a lot of people that have hoed themselves on the gram and have showed their lady bits and everything that there is to be shown on the gram. They have been successful. Good for them. But I feel like a lot of the younger generation looks at that and they think that that's the only way to success. That, for me, Nathalia, that was never something that I was comfortable with. And when I first started, I got put in a position where I was in a photo shoot that the outfits were uncomfortable. And that now I look back at some of those photos and I'm not proud. I wasn't proud a week after I did the shoot and the photos came out.
But you kind of felt like the pressure that you needed to step into those shoes because a lot of other athletes were doing that.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think that because I am in a more senior position now, and I have been there, I have walked the walk, and I have been able to accomplish a respected name in the industry for myself without having to rely on that to be where I am. I think that my biggest advice to younger generations is that you want to show your lady bits and your ass to the gram and for the world to see, girl, you do it. Go for it. But do not feel like you have to do it in order for you to be successful. I personally think that you can get a lot more respect and you can get a lot more longevity.
Yes, agreed.
By staying true to yourself and by sharing things that are true to you, not because everybody else is doing it.
Yeah, be yourself as authentically as you can be, because at the end of the day, you can fake it till you make it, but you'll break eventually. Eventually, you can't fake it anymore. And then, like you said, it's like, being, again, very young in the industry myself, I'm fortunate to have worked with people that I've never felt that ever pressure. I feel like nowadays it depends where you put yourself in those positions, but I feel, I pride myself on being able to, build my name and career over, being impactful through education, through inspiration, through ways that it's like, I know I'm authentically myself without feeling like I need to do that. And you don't need to do that to be successful. Even if you're, only impacting a handful of people, you are making an impact. Do not think you need to be helping the entire world, because we need each and every one of us. All of the coaches that are listening, each of us are helping a pool of people. There's so many people in the world that need help. We can't all help everybody, but focusing on like how you work specifically with moms, you thrive on, you have so much knowledge on this, and that's like your niche in a way where you're passionate about it. You have a lot of education about it. And there's so many niches all over that require different levels of coaching. And just be you. And I promise that you attract that type of person, client, opportunities and everything in between.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like a lot of people ask Natalia, why do you work with moms? Why didn't you? Because it was a complete new arena for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I had like it wasn't the thing. So from a money standpoint, if we're going to talk business,
Yeah.
from a money standpoint, if I were in this with the sole purpose of making money, you'd be a much quote unquote smarter business decision
Yeah.
to stick with the competition arena because I have the Olympia title behind me to be
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I can coach everybody. But that for me, that wasn't my passion. I
Yeah.
enjoyed being a competitor, but I did not enjoy being a coach to a competitor.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a maybe, and maybe it's not a hell yeah. If you have,
Yeah.
it's a not a hell yeah, it's a hell no.
Yeah. And
So that's kind of how I felt.
yeah, and talking about more about that, you specialize in pre and postnatal coaching. Talk to us a little bit about your specific shift when from a Olympia bikini competitor, you're training in nutrition to now you're training in your nutrition when you became pregnant with your first child, and now stepping into that new title of becoming a mom. What did it look like for you?
I think that like the transition for me, so there are a few different stages of that. So whenever I found out that I was pregnant, I had been already training for a long time,
Yeah.
uh, and I felt pregnant, and I had no idea what to do because you go on
Yeah.
Google and there is absolute like you shouldn't be doing this. Oh, but you can do this if you do that. And like there's so much like everything else. There's so much conflicting information
Yeah.
that I knew that I had to specialize in that. Not only because I wanted to make sure that I was being safe for my own body, but
Yeah.
also because I feel like whenever you have a social media following and people are looking up to you for advice, it is your moral responsibility
Yeah.
to make sure that you're giving the best advice that you can and that you have available for you. I
Yeah.
think it is my duty to, especially when we're talking about training during pregnancy, because it's not just the risk of the mom, it's the risk of the baby.
Maybe. Yeah.
So at the time I lived in Ireland, so I flew to London and then I took a course in pre and postnatal, like
Oh,
coaching and
awesome.
training and all of that. So I was able to navigate my own pregnancy and my postpartum journey, and I just became hungry to learn more and more because there is so little given
Yeah.
in regular personal training certifications when it comes to pre and postnatal
Agreed.
coaching. It's like there is one, at least here in the US and in England as well, in the UK where I lived. There is one module that it talks about special population, and a special population ranges from youth, diabetics, heart condition people, people with heart conditions, elderly, pregnant, and postpartum. And
Yeah.
that's one module. And
Yeah.
there is so much that changes in a woman's body, not only the body itself, but your time management, your
Yes.
priorities, the time, the amount of time that you have available. And as my journey progressed, I start to speak my truth. I
Yeah.
start to speak. I start to speak and be very open about my journey and how I felt about the physical changes and how I felt about the priority change, and that I didn't have 4 hours to spend in the gym anymore like I had before. That if I got an hour, it was a win, and that I
Yeah.
had to change my approach to, and that I wanted to make sure that my family and my kids were not growing up in a household with distorted views of food. I
Yes.
didn't want to be able to, I wanted to be able to have an ice cream with my kids and not to be like, oh, mommy's on a diet.
Exactly. Yep.
We don't even use the word diet in my
Yeah.
house.
That's like one of the biggest things. I make it an effort, and even with not only nutrition and training, but also the way the moms talk about themselves. The kids mimic. They learn from you and everything you do. Like even when it comes to like sometimes tracking nutrition, being transparent with your kiddos depending on the age that they're at, but also making sure you're doing it in a way that it's not creating these toxic images in their head so that they grow up with these complexes. Because I myself, my mom, first generation here in the United States, fitness was not really a big thing for women, and things like just like strength training, I have to be a certain size, not eating any meats or something, like whatever, like the complexes that she had were starting to be pushed down on me. And it's those type of things that's like, I've learned that since I was a kid. No kid should be ever worried about these types of things and creating unhealthy relationships with food at such a young age, especially when you as a mother or a father have that, that power to set the impression from them from a very young age. And I think you as a coach for women who are trying to, still prioritize their health and wellness, you set that standard for them and really help guide them to do so in a way that's successful. Because you yourself had two beautiful children that are just 14 months apart. But what would you say for yourself is like the hardest thing that you had to do from adjusting to that fitness training lifestyle to becoming a mother, besides just that time shift? A lot of moms and mothers might be listening and, maybe pregnant or just, had a child for the first time and still want to prioritize their training. What are some things that you can advise these women to do?
I think that grace, give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
You
guys
know,
carry a
and
human being in you for 9 months. Oh my goodness.
yeah, and so I think the first thing is allow yourself some grace, and but without falling into that toxic positivity.
Yes.
Because if your baby's 5 and you're still fat, that's not baby weight.
Yeah.
Your baby's 5. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
like respecting your body, but also having a little bit of a reality check, and because I feel like a lot of moms have that what I call the martyr syndrome.
Okay.
They want to take on the role. They want to do things for everybody, and they take pride in trying to carry the role and putting themselves less in the list of priority.
Yeah, you
You are
can't.
not going to be you are not going to be able to show up being the best version of yourself for your kids and for your family if you're not feeling your best. So make sure that you're asking for help. And another thing, for the demographic that I work with, a lot of the people who I work with are people who have been somewhat involved in the fitness industry. I work with a lot of trainers,
Oh
like
yeah,
fitness.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I work with a lot of personal trainers and coaches who are coaches, but they do not understand and they do not know how to train during their pregnancy
Yeah.
or after pregnancy. So, in fact, I have clients in Australia who are personal trainers. I have clients in like Ireland, England, like all
All
corners
over the
of the
world.
world. I have clients, and a lot of them, funnily enough, will have a lot of experience in the fitness industry. But understanding that just because you know how to train, it does not mean that you know how to train during pregnancy in the postpartum stage. That's one. The second one is just because you can do something, it does not mean you should.
Yeah.
People have this they it's like, oh, I'm pregnant and I'm still hitting PRs. Yeah, you can hit PRs, but is it optimal? Is
Yeah.
it optimal for what your body is doing right now? Is it the best option? Because if you look in the grand scheme of things, pregnancy is just a small part of your life.
Your life. Yeah.
Do you really want to be pushing boundaries and putting yourself at risk of having long-term consequences like pelvic organ prolapse, urinary incontinence, and a lot of the things that might come with a poorly managed training during pregnancy,
Yeah.
like the mummy pooch? I'm
Yeah.
not saying that you're going to be completely able to avoid those things, but you can try to manage the variables that you can to try and prevent those things at the best of your ability.
Yeah, and I think in doing so in a manner that is, like you said earlier, not just safe for you, but safe for the child or children that you are carrying and are having. And I think, it may be hard, especially when it comes to like that first child when a woman has. It's like they've never seen their body go through the changes that they're about to experience. And, coming from women who have been in the fitness industry and who have been training and maybe have gone to a shape or confidence level where they really love their bodies, to see them, it's a type of topic that sometimes is very difficult to talk about, and lots of women feel like a sense of shame to talk about. But when you have a child, there's going to be changes in your body, and some of them are inevitable, some of them are preventable, but there's a way to know, like how you said, don't fall into that excuse of I just had a child and then neglect yourself entirely, but also understand it may take time. Just because so and so on Instagram looks like she never even had the baby does not mean that what you look like is wrong, or you're not in the right place, or you're not working hard enough. That's like a
And you can
very Go
and
ahead.
you cannot compare the beginning of your journey
Yes.
to somebody else's middle to end of their journey. Like,
Yeah.
for example, right now my kids are 5 and 4. So you can put like, you can, like, somebody can come to my Instagram, look at my photos and be like, oh my goodness, she looks like that. And I had a baby 3 weeks ago and I don't look like that. And I'm like, do you want to see what I look like at 3 weeks postpartum?
Yeah.
Hold on, I will
Let
show
me
you.
show you. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
and I try to share that.
and I love that, being that person who you have this platform, being able to share that and show the reality of it. Sure, it may not be the most perfect, but it's the reality, and it allows women to kind of feel comfortable to embrace that and grow from that, and being able to, like, body confidence, great, but also be understanding that, hey, this is all normal. I'm going to be like this, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get to the best place I can, mentally, physically, emotionally, because like you said, you can't pour from an empty cup, and like that
Mhm.
job and responsibility of being a mom requires you to make sure that you yourself are taken care of, to give the best care that you can for your children. What would you
And
say? Go ahead.
just try, like, I also think that it is very important because I know that a lot of the audience listening to it, it's people who have some kind of experience in fitness, and
Yeah.
a lot of people think that just because they have experience in fitness and that they are above, or that like the basics of training during pregnancy and postpartum is beneath them.
Yeah.
Top athletes need a rehabilitation plan
Yeah.
after they have a child. It doesn't matter if you're PRing 300 kilograms on a deadlift before pregnancy. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
Your vagina doesn't give a shit if
Yeah.
you were PRing 300 kilograms before you got pregnant. If you try to do that now and you do too much too soon, you're going to be putting yourself in a position that you might have unreversible consequences. So
Yes.
respecting your body and not, and understanding that even though you might have some experience, you still need to go through the rehabilitation process the same way that you would if you had a torn ACL.
Yeah.
If you have a torn ACL and you have surgery for your ACL, you're not going to come out 6 weeks later and try to do sprints. You
No.
are going to build up on that progressive overload and slowly have more load and have more impact. And I don't understand why it is so hard for people to comprehend that it should be the same after you have a baby.
Yeah, and I think lots of times it's that comparison of like, oh, she just had a kid, and oh, she's stepping the stage, or within a year, or she's looking like this. It's, you need to focus on you, but also, like, what would you say? And this is kind of like tricky, but like, for example, from new moms, whether they have been in the fitness industry prior, or have been training and have experience, or to completely brand new moms that are like, you know what, after having kids, I know I want to make sure that I maintain my most optimal health to be there for my kids. What where it's like, where do they start? What's like your best advice for like locating where to start, and resources? I know, like you said, when you were pregnant, sometimes you Google online, and Google is just like, yes, no, this is bad, everything is good, bad, and you're just like, oh my god, what do I do? What is your advice for navigating all of that information online?
Find a coach who specializes in the stage of life that you're in. Plain and simple. Like, and people have this
Yes.
idea. It doesn't matter how much experience you have, and I see that a lot in the fitness industry. People are like, "Oh yeah, but like I'm a coach." Well, I'm a coach. I've been training since I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
I've won the Olympia, and do you know who has a coach? I do.
Yeah.
I have a business coach. I have a fitness coach who I meet twice a week. It's like, just because you have been doing it for so long, it doesn't mean that you cannot always learn something new,
Yeah.
especially if, as a postpartum mom, if you are a personal trainer and it has never been your wheelhouse or field of expertise, there isn't anything wrong with looking for help from someone who knows what the hell. And that's they talk
Very niche.
vagina all day. I talk vagina all day, every day to all my
and
clients
and
because
that's
it is a
something.
big part of it.
Yeah, and I think that's really big. And in general, regardless what level of life you're at, it's okay to outsource help. Like, I have a coach. I'm a coach. I have a coach. I have a coach for my competition season. When I didn't compete, I had just a regular coach. Like when one day, God given, I have kids, I'm going to have a postnatal coach. Like these are the type of things, like it's not a bad thing to go ask for help from someone who can give you the knowledge so you don't have to carry every load by yourself. I think it's also this thing as like women, we tend to be like everybody else before ourselves. You can ask somebody else to help you out. It's not going to
Yeah.
bring your name down. It's going to help you become a stronger woman for you, yourself, your kids, your family, and everything in between. And I think, guidance from specifically in this niche of like, it's such an intricate and complicated thing of having a child. It's not just, oh, baby, 9 month, boom. It's very complicated. And I think, be mindful of the coaches that you are hiring, the information that you're receiving. And hey, if you're one of the coaches listening right now, there are courses that you can take to further that education if you find that that is a niche of like the group of women that you are working with. I saw that a lot of I was getting a lot of moms at the beginning because I work in like a suburban area here. I'm from Chicago, and a lot of
Okay.
clients I had were women. And I knew that for a second I needed to step back and be like, great, I know how to coach athletes like myself, but I do not know how to coach women who have children. And I think that was one of the things, even if they had kids that were older, I knew that in a part of me knows I'm not going to be a mom anytime soon. I need to step into the shoes of education. What more can I expand to give them the best that I possibly can as a coach, not just the generic stuff, because it's not going to serve them any good. And it can be dangerous at times. So be mindful if you have clients and they're about to have kids or have had kids, just there are certifications out there. Educate yourself so you can be that source of education for your clients.
Yeah.
Now,
And don't expect like a mom of 2 or 3 who is like balls deep into the bullshit that it is to have kids, because they can terrorize your sanity.
yeah,
And this is from a mom who of like a 4 and a 5 year old. Don't expect them just because you make fitness your life,
yes, agreed.
that a mom is going to do the same, because she has so much going on her plate
Yeah,
that you need to meet her where she's at.
yes,
And from there, you kind of need to evolve. And as she starts to see the results, it is inevitable that she's going to start to become more committed.
yeah. And I think one of the biggest things, and we talk about this with any person's goals, motivation. But I feel like with motivation, when it comes to, working with women who have children, how do you navigate finding that motivation to prioritize your health, your wellness, training, nutrition? And what are your tips, and how do you motivate your clients who are, juggling all of these responsibilities to weed out that time for themselves?
First, I think motivation is bullshit.
Oh, 100%.
I
Yes.
think that motivation is bullshit. Like people are like, I'm not motivated. Well, neither am I. But I have created a habit in my life to, I wake up, I get my kids ready, I take them to school, I go to the gym, I come back. It is just part of my day. The same way
Yeah.
that and it's been like this for a long time.
Yeah.
So people expect their lives to change. Um, we live in a society that expects quick rewards,
Yes.
and it's the same for fitness. So I think that understanding that creating a habit is going to take some time, and that
Yeah.
your results are not going to come from motivation. They're going to come from habits and discipline to show up even on the days that you don't want to.
Yeah.
That's number one. And working on the mindset thing
Yeah.
of on the mindset part of your clients, and understanding. I'm very aware that the demographic that I work with has a lot on their plates. A lot of these women that I work with come from one, yo-yo dieting
Yes.
mindset: gain 10 pounds, lose 20 pounds, gain 50 pounds, lose 10 pounds. And the next thing you know, they've gained 80 pounds and they have no idea how that happened. So
Yeah.
there is a very distorted view of food. I also work with a lot of former competitors that try to maintain that lifestyle of competition while having kids. And a year in, they're completely burned out and still haven't lost weight.
Yeah.
So one big thing that I do in my coaching is to outsource the things that are outside my scope. For example, in my personalized coaching programs, I have a counselor who specializes in eating disorder, emotional eating, stress
Amazing.
eating. So we do workshops for my clients, and the counselor is also available for one-on-one sessions so that we can work on that mindset part. Because again, I am not a mental health professional. I
Yes.
am a fitness professional. So I can do so much, when it comes to the mindset aspect, but it's going to be primarily coming from my personal experience.
Yeah.
But whenever it starts to get to a bit more complicated and traumas and things like that, that is outside my scope. So I have a counselor for that. And another thing as well, I understand my scope as a fitness trainer. So in my team, I also have a registered dietitian because
Yeah.
as a personal trainer, I am not qualified to give meal plans.
Yep.
That is not my job. And the last thing that and that might mean that I don't make as much money, but I'm able to go to bed and sleep at night knowing that if I have a breastfeeding mom or if I have a mom who has a health condition that she's allergic to specific types of food, I have a professional on my team who is able, who has the knowledge, and that it is her scope of work.
Yes, agreed.
So
100%.
I have surrounded, and I have an array of professionals that I work with, pelvic floor physical therapists that I refer my clients to. So I think that I try to understand my scope as a fitness professional, and then when it comes to the mindset thing and the mental health aspect, I have somebody on my team to support my clients on that.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is understanding that it's not going to be quick, it's not going to be easy. And this goes for any goal, any person. People, like you said, quick fixes sell, but then are more traumatizing and create more issues than when you started that. So I think the biggest thing, and within my own coaching, I really try to push, sustainable methods. And this is just in general, like things that are sustainable, lifelong. Your mental health is very important. The way you're trying to reach your goal is very important, because at the end of the day, health is the type of thing that like you can prevent it from deteriorating. You cannot buy health. You can't go to the store and buy your health. So it's like that type of thing. It's like prioritize your health while you still have it, instead of being hit at the wall at one day or another. You're either going to prioritize your health while you have it or prioritize your health because something is wrong with your health, right? So this goes for all areas of life, and especially when it comes to, pre and postnatal. And again, to anybody listening, you have to make sure that you are taking care of these clients. And again, if it's not in your scope to work with a specific case of a client, outsourcing that. It's not worth the money that you can make to put someone's life at risk. And it goes with any client. So it's just, it sucks because money talks, but at the end of the day, your passion should lie within helping people. And that should be your driving force for any work you do.
I get asked on a daily basis, do you do contest prep? Every single day, the answer is the same. No, I do not.
Yeah.
But how much would it be? You could pay me $1 million. I wouldn't do it.
No.
Because it is just not my jam. I think that whenever it comes to competing, from my personal experience, because I was poorly coached, the line of healthy and unhealthy is very fine. 100%. And I know that whenever I was doing it, I've crossed that unhealthy line several times, and I am not willing to do that with my clients.
Yeah. And
because when I'm doing it with myself, screw it. It's my stuff. But with my clients, no.
No. And I think it's that type of thing where competing is a very extreme. I compete with the WBFF, and I love the federation. It allows me to be a competitor at my healthiest, most optimal self. And I'm able to do it in a way that I am prioritizing my health, because at the end of the day, competing is just a chapter in my life. And I know that one day I want to have children. I want to be healthy. And these are the type of things I don't want to risk. It's a hobby. It's something I'm passionate about, but it's not something that I want to give my entire life to. To each their own, if that is you, but it's just, you have to be mindful that the competing lifestyle is not the most optimal, glamorous that it looks like. There are some really dark holes in the back. Just making sure that if you are looking to compete, finding a coach that can do so in a way that is healthy and being transparent about everything. Because it's a dangerous field out there. I was about to enter the NPC field, and I was introduced to some coaches that were offering me things when I was very, very young. And I knew that was like, not for me. And I knew that I didn't want to jump into that hole. So being cautious of that too. I can see where people can think, oh, looking that lean is great. That's the health. No. Health does not look like that. That's probably my unhealthiest. Like
for me, I was very fortunate that when I competed, I wasn't offered things. I know that things have changed, but because I was a bikini pro in the very beginning stages of it, they were still looking for that like more rounder look and
like a healthy
look.
Like
a healthier look. But when I talk about crossing the line of the unhealthy and unhealthy, it's like having me on 1,000 calories a day and having me do cardio for 4 hours, 3 hours a day.
Oh man,
that is not healthy.
No,
that's not healthy. That's not normal.
And what happens is like entering these type of times where you're doing those unhealthy things, well, what happens when you suddenly stop? People don't understand that you do these diets, great, you drop all those pounds. What happens when you stop? Are you in a place that you're ready to reverse and get out of there? Probably not. You're probably not equipped for that. You didn't buy the next package deal or whatever it may be, and you dug yourself a hole, you're in the hole, and now you're stuck in the hole. And it's like, that's why we have to make sure that we're prioritizing doing things in a healthy and sustainable way. Now, we talked a little bit about training, motivation. Now let's go into a little bit for nutrition before we wrap up the podcast. And what would be like your top 3 tips when it comes to like busy moms structuring, their food and their nutrition? I have heard, the common thing, I didn't have time. Or I just ate a little bit of whatever the kiddos had, or they just completely, it's 4:00, I haven't eaten. I'm like, it baffles me, but it happens. Your day gets ahead of you. What are your tips for moms that can find themselves in these situations?
Prepare, be ready. Find what your bottleneck is. I'm just going to give myself as an example because it's just something that I always use because it is for me, was like an aha moment. So preparing yourself for your day ahead of time. Yeah. Because people try to wing it and then life gets in the way. My husband is a big, he prepares for, like, his bag is ready for the gym at 5 p.m. the day before with everything and even placed in order in which he's going to wear it. It's ridiculous.
Like a firefighter, just jumps up and puts them on and is out the house.
Oh yeah, that's kind of like, my husband is very regimented, and I think from playing professional sports for such a long time, kind of got him there. And so that kind of got me in the habit myself of always being prepared and always having something in the fridge that would be an easy grab and go, so I didn't have to resort to like very high calorie snacks and things like that. But even though I always felt very equipped, there was a time that I noticed that my bottleneck was being my lunch. I knew that if I didn't have my lunch ready to go, because I normally start my work day at about 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I normally eat on my desk. Not the best thing, but that's what I do, and that's how how my life operates. Yeah, and it works for me. But I was noticing that I was getting to work and I wouldn't have food ready, and then I would just keep on going I work from home, so I'll just keep on going to the pantry and the fridge and grabbing snacks.
Yeah.
And then the food would get ahead of myself, and then I would have nothing to show for it. Like, what did you have what did you have for lunch? I don't know, but I had Oreos, and then I had pineapples, and then I had half a sandwich, and I had a bit of cheese.
Yeah.
And then next thing I know, I start putting on weight, and I stopped seeing results. And I'm like, hold on a second. I need to do something. But I have been so busy with work that I didn't have the time to prepare a lot of my foods. Yeah. Because weekend came, I had to make the choice of either spending time with my kids or prepping my food, and I chose to spend time with my family. Yeah. So I was like, okay, hold on. We have meal prep companies here very easily available. I don't have the budget to order them for every single meal, but I know that my bottleneck is my lunch. So what if I order just my lunch for 5 days a week? And that is going to set me up just fine for me to get for dinner. And dinner is a meal that we have together as a family every single day. No TV, no cell phones, nothing. So we can talk about our days. So I think that finding what your bottleneck is and doing something to change, because I think that a lot of people, they just enjoy complaining. And that is what drives me crazy. Oh, I'm so busy. And I feel so fat. Oh my God. And and life is so hard. What are you doing to change? Yes. I am not here to join your pity party. Yes. If you are ready for change, you come to me, we talk about it, we solve the problem. I'm a problem solver. I am not the spectator of a pity party. I don't like it. Yeah. So that's one thing that my clients know as well.
And it's important because at the end of the day, as a coach, doing that's the tough love that you need to be providing, because at the end of the day, we can sugarcoat things. Oh, you're having a hard time, and then it's not going to help you, right? My goal, and I do this myself, and sometimes I learned that from the coaches that I've worked with, it's very easy to fall into the excuses. If you are committed to making a change, you have to change. You have to find what is, like, I love how you're saying it as like a bottleneck. That's an awesome way to put it, because at the end of the day, maybe you can't change everything. You can't pull a 180 in your life and make it magically suited for what is needed to reach your goal. But you can find that weakest link and change that. And yes, some motivation, BS. All of that is like imaginary. A lot of times it's like, if you want it bad enough, you commit to finding the way to make it happen. Yes, some people have it easier than others, but you have to understand, if it's meaningful to you and it's important to you, you have to sometimes get over the laziness excuses, I just don't have time. There are ways. It's not one way. There's many ways. So don't think it's just because you can't do one way, there's no way and that's it. You're stuck. You're not stuck.
And one thing that drives me up to the walls is like, people see you on social media, and that happens for me. They're like, oh, you probably have all these people helping you at home, and like somebody to cook your meals. And like, I just don't like that mindset that people have. And they always think that somebody has something or has accomplished something because they have it better.
Yeah.
Why can't you just assume that somebody has something that you don't have, because they have been willing to make sacrifices and make a commitment to themselves to keep on showing up even on the days that they didn't want to. And I'm not just talking about myself. I've had a lot of clients that have been incredibly successful because they have woken up at 4:30 in the morning so they could get their workout before their kids were up.
Yeah.
When my son was 6 weeks old, I would have to commute for an hour in order to go to a gym that I could bring him in a car seat. And my son had every single health issue that you can possibly think of, but it was important to me. Yeah. I'm not saying that Mary or Jane or whoever needs to be like me, but you need to understand that if it is important to you, you need to make it a priority, and complaining about it is not going to solve your problem.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing I always say is your health should always be your priority. And it's a non-negotiable. That's one of my new things I like to say, non-negotiables. These are things that your health and wellness is necessary, not only for yourself, but the roles that you play in everybody else's life. If your health is not just looking a certain way, it's being healthy inside and out. And that should be priority for forever and ever, because we only have this one body. Treat it the way, with respect, love, care, nurture, all of that. You need to be doing that. There's no excuse greater than prioritizing your health, because guess what, the things that you have to do, you can't do them if you're not healthy. How many times have you fallen sick and you can't do things? That's why you got to prioritize your health.
And the other thing, just real quick, that I see very often is like outsourcing blame.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I can't lose weight because my husband eats. Is he putting food in your mouth?
And if
he
stop that.
If he is shoving food down your throat, we have a much bigger problem than you not losing weight. Like, oh, because of my kids, I can lose weight. Wait, hold on a second. Do they do the shop?
Yeah.
Like, do they go to the grocery store and then they force feed you? No, they don't. It is a choice that you're making to eat the things that do not align. Not only eat the things, but eat certain amounts of certain things that do not align with your goals. And that's not your kid's fault. That's not your husband's fault. It is your fault.
Taking it's like this responsibility. You're responsible for the choices you're making every single day. We make choices every hour of the day. Even just simple things like, I'm making the choice and to chat with you right now. And it's like, you have these choices, be mindful of them. Scrolling for 12 minutes on your phone. How about doing something else for those 12 minutes that may serve you positively? So, I mean, our podcast is loaded with some awesome gems. I know everyone who's listening is going to love this, but let's wrap up our chat today. Give us 3 things you'd like to share with anybody in the fitness industry, whether it's coaches, moms. What are your 3, we do this with every episode and every guest that we have, your 3 takeaways and gems that we can get from you?
Number 1,
so many.
Is it like broad, anything, general. Everything? Number 1.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Stay true to yourself.
Yes.
So you can, if you're a personal trainer, so you can attract your people. Be very open and honest about who you want to work with and who you are, because whenever you try to be somebody else, you're going to attract people that you're not going to enjoy working with. That's number 1. Number 2, do not be afraid of hiring help. Just because you are a coach doesn't mean that you don't need a coach, especially when you are pregnant, when you are postpartum, and it is a stage of life that you might not necessarily know how to navigate and how to train for.
Yeah.
That's two. And if it goes away quickly, it's going to come back quickly.
Yes.
So everything that comes quick goes away quick. So if you're looking for the next quick fix, if you're, yeah, you might lose 20 pounds in like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But what then? What next? What happens next?
Yeah.
So, so I think that these would be my three main tips.
And it's amazing. I mean, you are a powerhouse of a woman. You are a mom, a coach, an Olympian. You fit into these shoes so gracefully and so beautifully. And you know, at the end of the day, you are an inspiration for many. And I'm very grateful to be able to chat with you today and have you as a guest on our podcast. And to everybody listening, another powerhouse woman on the podcast. Let's go. It's super exciting to chat with you. Nathalia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Maria, for having me. And if any of you want to find me on the gram, I'm Nathalia Melo Fit. The Natalia is a bit different. Nathalia. My website is the same thing, nataliamellofit.com. Facebook, same thing. And if you want to ask any questions about what we discussed in the podcast, do send me a DM. You're more likely to get a response from me on Instagram. I'm the one who answers my DMs personally. I do not have anybody doing that. So if you have any questions about anything that we spoke about today, I'll be more than happy to help you. And if you need referrals for like pelvic floor physical therapists or anything, just reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much.